Hey there, all you beautiful Broadway babies! Welcome back to Broadway by Ghostlight. I'm Mark Bonanni, and this is episode 30 of Broadway Jeopardy! Thank you all so much for the support as I took last week off for the holidays, but it's a new year, so let's welcome 2025 with a milestone episode of Broadway Jeopardy! There's 26 all-new clues coming your way today with some fun new categories, 2 of which celebrate the previous 29 episodes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's jump right into this week's game, shall we? This is Broadway Jeopardy! Looking at this week's categories, we start off with last episode's final Jeopardy category, which is all good gifts. Looking at some gifts that have been given in plots of different musicals. After that, we have the category. Here we'll be looking at some names of some of the past episode categories, and you have to tell me what show they were referencing. After that, it's T-shirts, get your T-shirts. This is a visual category where I'll show you a T-shirt I've worn in a previous episode, and you name the show it's from. That's followed by Happy New Year, celebrating the just past holiday by looking at some shows that take place on or have scenes set on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. And last but not least, we have musical sequels, taking a look at some rare musical sequels from over the years. And we end with the final Jeopardy category, so make sure and keep track of your scores. If you want, I'm not your father. Though some players have dubbed me Broadway Daddy, so, make of that what you will. We start off, of course, with the $200 round, or the overture round as I call it, where the questions are on the easier side to help you get some fake cash on the board before I pluck that dough from you dollar by dollar with the harder questions later in the game. Starting off the overture round with the all good gifts category, your first $200 clue is: in Disney's Beauty and the Beast gives Belle this entire room in his castle as a gift. What is the library? Belle is a big bookworm in the musical, and in the Beast's efforts to win her over, he gives her his massive library as a gift. Which is a pretty dang good gift if you ask me. Moving on to the category, your next $200 clue is: the category I'll drink to that from episode 6 is a quote from the character of Joanne from this Sondheim musical. What is Company? Joanne and Company, originally played by Elaine Stritch, says the iconic line in the song The Ladies Who Lunch. The phrase has become part of every theater nerd's lexicon and was referenced several times in the greatest TV show of all time, Schmigadoon. I'll drink to that! Let's head to the merch booth with the T-shirts, get your T-shirts category, and the $200 clue: the shirt seen in episode 5 was purchased at this beloved off-Broadway musical and gives the warning, "Don't feed the plants." What is Little Shop of Horrors? This shirt is from the still-running off-Broadway revival, which opened in September of 2019. The revival just celebrated its 1500th performance, which is incredible for any show, let alone an off-Broadway one. But it still has a little ways to go before it surpasses the original Little Shop of Horrors' 2,209 performances. The next $200 clue in the Happy New Year category is: Maureen, Mark, Roger, Mimi, and more celebrate New Year's Eve in this 1996 musical. What is Rent is the correct answer. In the musical on New Year's Eve, the gang break into Mark and Roger's apartment, which their former friend and landlord Benny had locked them out of.
Fans of the padlocked door, New Year's Rockin' Eve, the breaking back into the building party.
How long till next year?
3.5 minutes.
And finishing up the overture round in the musical sequels category, your final $200 clue is: Rosie and Albert are trying to track down Conrad in a sequel to this hit musical from 1960. What is Bye Bye Birdie? Bye Bye Birdie, the hit musical from 1960, got a Broadway sequel over 20 years later in 1981 called Bring Back Birdie. In the ill-advised sequel, Rosie and Albert are married with 2 children, but get roped into finding Conrad Birdie, who's been missing since finishing his stint in the army. The show was initiated not by the creators of Bye Bye Birdie, but by Tams Witmark, the licensing company who deals with the theatrical rights. Bye Bye Birdie was one of their most popular titles being performed regionally, and the company wanted a sequel to offer people. The original idea was to only have the sequel available for amateur productions, but the show ended up coming to Broadway first anyway. I do have a whole breakdown of the show if you want to hear the full history and bonkers plot of this not so great show. But fair warning, it was my very first Broadway breakdown, and I definitely hadn't sort of yet figured out my style. So give it a watch. The show is so weird, and I think it's fun, but just, you know, the quality of my breakdown, it is what it is. I hope you all popped off like champagne bottles in that first round. Let's move on to the only slightly harder $400 round now. Circling back to all good gifts, your first $400 clue is, in the musical Sister Act, Dolores is given a fur coat by her mobster boyfriend that used to belong to this person. Who is his wife? Yes, Dolores' married mobster boyfriend gifts her a luxurious fur coat, but when she finds out it belonged to his wife, she goes to return it to him and witnesses a killing which starts the whole plot. In the original film, the fur coat is purple, but in the stage version, it was blue. Not sure why the change, but thought it was interesting. Looking at the category gives us the $400 clue. Lucy sings the song The Doctor Is In, which was a category on episode 18, in this musical about the Peanuts characters. What is You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown? You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown originally premiered off-Broadway in 1968. There was an animated special of the musical featuring the actual Peanuts characters in 1985, that's a lot of fun. But You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown is best remembered today, I think, for the 1999 Broadway revival of the musical with Anthony Rapp, B.D. Wong, Roger Bart, and Kristen Chenoweth, who sing the newly added song My New Philosophy, written by Andrew Lippa.
Your new philosophy.
Why are you telling me my new philosophy?
The $400 clue in the T-shirts Get Your T-shirts category is, this shirt from episode 18 depicts Bally High, an island sung about in this Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. What is South Pacific? There is no real island of Bally High in the South Pacific. The real island of Ambay was the inspiration for the mystical island, which was visible on the horizon for James Michener, the author of Tales of the South Pacific, the novel on which the musical is based, when he was stationed there in World War II. The film version of South Pacific used the Hawaiian mountain of Mount Makana on Kauai's North Shore to film as Bally High, and since the film's release in 1958, tourists have flocked to Bally High in Hawaii. Just don't let any of the locals hear you call it that. The Happy New Year category gives us the $400 clue. This 2016 musical, based on the classic 1942 film of the same name, contains the songs Let's Start the New Year Right, as well as Easter Parade and White Christmas. What is Holiday Inn? The stage version of the classic 1942 Bing Crosby, Fred Astaire movie musical first premiered at the Goodspeed Opera House, a beloved regional theater in East Haddam, Connecticut, in 2014. The next year it opened at another regional theater, the Muni in St. Louis, Missouri, before opening on Broadway in 2016 at Studio 54. The stage version used most of the songs from the film, wisely omitting some numbers like Abraham, which was performed in blackface in the movie. Yeah, let's leave that in the past, shall we? Yikes. The charming stage version of Holiday Inn on Broadway starred Bryce Pinkham and Corbin Bleu in the leading roles.
Let's start the new year right, 12 o'clock tonight, when they dim the light, let's begin, kissing the old year out, kissing the new
final $400 clue in the musical sequels category is a daily double. Remember, how it works here is answer part 1 of the clue, you get the $400. Answer the slightly more difficult part 2 of the clue, and you double your money to $800. Okay, your doubled up musical sequel clue is the hit musical Annie got an off-Broadway sequel in 1993 called this. For double points, this is the name of the first failed attempt at a musical sequel to Annie. What is Annie Warbucks is the answer to part 1, and what is Annie 2, Miss Hannigan's Revenge is the answer for part 2. In 1983, at the closing performance of the original run of Annie, writer and director Martin Charnin gave a speech and told the audience that Annie's story was not finished. 6 years later, in 1989, Annie 2, Miss Hannigan's Revenge opened its pre-Broadway tryout in Washington, D.C., starring Dorothy Loudon, the original Miss Hannigan, back in her role. But the musical, with a decidedly more cynical tone than the overtly optimistic original, was skewered by critics, and after massive rewrites, the project was abandoned. Years later, a new sequel titled Annie Warbucks bopped around the United States until finally opening off-Broadway in 1993. Annie Warbucks is actually a pretty decent sequel to the original, if a little plot heavy, but you can decide that for yourself. I also have a full breakdown of Annie Warbucks on the channel for you to watch as well. And that's a really good one. That's more of a recent one, so, give that one a watch. I do recommend it. Heading straight into the $600 round now, let's open up the $600 clue in the All Good Gifts category, which is, in this short-lived show about the Marx Brothers, Harpo sings the song Mama a Rainbow about getting his mother a birthday present. What is Minnie's Boys? One of my favorite obscure flop musicals. Minnie's Boys has a fun score which contains the breakout song Mama a Rainbow. It's a very sweet song in which the boys have forgotten their mother's birthday, and Adolf, aka Harpo, sings about what could he possibly give the woman who has given him and his brothers everything. The song has had popular recordings from Steve Lawrence as well as Jim Nabors.
Mama a rainbow, Mama a sunrise, Mama the moon to wear.
The $600 clue in the category is, in episode 11, we had the category Oh What a Circus, which is a song from this classic Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. What is Evita? The song Oh What a Circus is what's called a contrafactum.
There's a $10 word for you.
A contrafactum is a song where the music is the same, but the lyrics are totally changed. In the case of Oh What a Circus, it's the exact melody of Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, just a little more up-tempo and with, of course, completely different lyrics.
Who is this Santa Evita? Why all this howling, hysterical sorrow?
In the musical, Oh What a Circus is sung by the character of Che. The original Che in London, David Essex, had been a recording star, but had recently been dropped by his record label for low sales. Essex decided to release Oh What a Circus as a single from the new musical, and it quickly climbed the charts, ultimately reaching number 3 on the UK Billboard charts.
Oh, what a circus, oh, what a show. Argentina has gone to town over the death of an actress called Eva Perón.
Let's look at a musical quote in the T-Shirts Get Your T-Shirts category, and the $600 clue. This shirt from episode 12 is from the annual Broadway Con. The quote, "There's a place for us," is a lyric from this Golden Age musical. What is West Side Story is the correct answer. The classic line, "There's a place for us," is from the song Somewhere from the musical written by Leonard Bernstein and Stephen Sondheim.
There's a place for us, a time and place for us.
Ringing in the $600 clue in the Happy New Year category gives us, in the hit revival of Cabaret from Roundabout Theatre Company, on New Year's Eve, Sally sings both Don't Tell Mama and this song, interpolated from the film version of the musical. What is Mine Hair? As the clue stated, Mine Hair was written by Kander and Ebb for the 1972 film version of Cabaret. And luckily the fun song with the iconic choreography was kept for the 1998 revival. And heading across the pond for the musical sequels category gives us the $600 clue. This sequel to the blockbuster hit The Phantom of the Opera furthered the story of the Phantom and Christine. What is Love Never Dies is the answer. Love Never Dies, with a score by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Glenn Slater, opened in London's West End in 2010. The story takes place about 10 years after the events of the first musical, The Phantom of the Opera, and it sees Christine, along with her husband Raoul and their son Gustav, travel to the US, specifically Brooklyn's Coney Island, where she is asked to perform in a Coney Island attraction called Phantasma, unaware somehow that the Phantom is really in charge there. The musical was panned by critics, while most audience members dubbed the show Paint Never Dries. Ouch. A heavily rewritten and newly designed production opened in 2011 in Australia to much better notices, but the show still never took off. It's time now to really crank up the difficulty with the $800 round, but before we do, please take this second and hit the like button for me if you're enjoying this week's game. It really helps YouTube show these videos to more fine folks like yourselves, which really helps me out, but it also makes me feel like you like me. You really like me. Thanks everyone, I really do appreciate it. Okay, onward and upward. Back again at All Good Gifts, your first $800 clue is... In Avenue Q, Princeton gives Kate Monster this gift, which confuses Kate about their relationship. What is a mixtape? Do you remember those? If you do, it's time to schedule your colonoscopy. Anyway, mixtapes used to be the way to express feelings to someone with carefully chosen songs to communicate everything you wish to say to the person you'd give it to. So Kate Monster, who's got a little crush on Princeton, is thrilled with some of the selections, like Kiss the Girl and My Heart Will Go On. She gets a little sad when she sees some of the chosen songs, like You've Got a Friend and That's What Friends Are For, and she just gets downright confused with some songs like I Am the Walrus and Fat Bottom Girls. The $800 clue in the category is... Murder, Murder from episode 6 is the Act 2 opening song from this 1997 Frank Wildhorn musical. What is Jekyll and Hyde? When Edward Hyde goes on a killing spree of London's corrupt upper class, the citizens sing Murder, Murder as they live in fear of this new serial killer. The song contains some, let's call them interesting lyrics, like to kill outside St. Paul's requires a lot of balls, and another one of my personal favorites is when Hyde is about to murder Lord Theodore Savage. Hyde says, "Bad news from God, Teddy," and then snaps his neck, and I don't know why, but it's just so absurd and it makes me laugh every time. Let's look through my closet with the T-shirts, get your T-shirts category, and the $800 clue. The shirt from episode 11, seen here, has the quote, "God, I hate Shakespeare," which is from this 2015 musical comedy. What is Something Rotten? One of my all-time faves. In the show I returned to the most times on Broadway. I saw it 8 times. But, my wife worked on it, so, it's not too surprising. But it is a very, very special show to me. My oldest daughter literally took her first steps backstage. Actually, here's a great picture of her in Heidi Blickenstaff's B-wig. Anyways, in the musical about the Bottom brothers, who are playwrights in a one-way feud with the great William Shakespeare, the eldest brother Nick expresses his dislike for the bard in this song, which I kind of agree with.
God, I hate Shakespeare. His plays are wordy, but oh no, the great Shakespeare. That little turd, he has no sense about the audience. He makes them feel so dumb. That bastard doesn't care that my poor ass is getting numb.
Well, let's head back in theater history with the $800 clue in the Happy New Year category. It's... Captain Andy Hawks finds his daughter Magnolia singing After the Ball on New Year's Eve in this groundbreaking musical from 1927. What is Showboat? If you only know one musical from the 1920s, it should probably be Showboat. While the score for Showboat is of course by Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein II, the song After the Ball is by Charles K. Harris and predates Showboat by about 35 years. After the Ball was written for a popular musical at the time called A Trip to Chinatown, which opened in 1891. The song After the Ball went on to become the most popular song of the Tin Pan Alley era, selling over 5 million copies of its sheet music. For Showboat, Kern and Hammerstein wanted a song for Magnolia to sing that was of the era of the story, and instead of writing a new song that sounded older, they simply interpolated an older song, After the Ball, into Showboat. And looking at a musical sequel for $800, we have the musical Funny Girl got a rare movie musical sequel with this film from 1975. What is Funny Lady is the correct answer. Though if you answered Funny Girl 2 Electric Boogaloo, I'll give you full points. Just like the original Funny Girl is a fairly fictionalized account of comedy superstar Fanny Brice and her rocky marriage to Nick Arnstein, Funny Lady furthers the story of Fanny Brice and her second marriage to real-life theatrical impresario Billy Rose. Initially, when told that she was contractually obligated to make another film for Funny Girl's producer Ray Stark, Barbra Streisand refused, saying it would take legal litigation for her to ever do a sequel. But once Miss Streisand read the script, she actually liked it and agreed to make the picture. James Caan played her second husband Billy Rose, while Ben Vereen appeared in a supporting role, though most of his scenes were left on the cutting room floor. And with that, we've reached the big show, the main event! It's the $1,000 round. Let's hear that dramatic music. Good luck, players. Looping back one last time to All Good Gifts, your first $1,000 clue is in Hello Dolly. This is the gift that Horace Van de Gelder brings Miss Irene Malloy. What are chocolate-covered peanuts? Unshelled. Those are the expensive kind. He brings them when calling on Miss Irene Malloy in New York City, but when he discovers multiple men are hiding in the shop, he storms off, but not before reclaiming his expensive gift. The $1,000 clue in the category is, this short-lived show contains the song Everybody Says Don't, which was a category title from episode 24. What is Anyone Can Whistle? In the musical, the song is sung by the character of J. Bowden Hapgood, originated on Broadway by Harry Guardino. But since that musical short 21 performances, Everybody Says Don't has mostly been associated with female singers being recorded by the likes of Sutton Foster, Liz Calloway, Melissa Errico, Jen Colella, and Barbra Streisand.
Everybody says don't, everybody says don't, everybody says don't, it isn't right, don't, it isn't nice. Everybody says don't, everybody says don't, everybody says don't walk on the grass, don't disturb the peace, don't skate on the ice.
Our last look at some t-shirts, get your t-shirts, gives us the $1,000 clue. This shirt from episode 20 is from Fame Becomes Me, a review built around this beloved actor. Who is Martin Short? Martin Short, Fame Becomes Me opened on Broadway in summer of 2006, and though of course the whole evening was built around Martin Short, it was not a one-man show. A great ensemble of musical and comedic actors supported Mr. Short, including Capethia Jenkins, Mary Birdsong, Nicole Parker, and Brooks Eschmankis. The score was by Scott Whitman and Mark Shaman, who himself appeared in the show, and the choreography was by Death Becomes Her and Schmigadoon's Chris Catelli. As a lifelong, die-hard Martin Short fan, I loved this show. At one point in the evening, Martin Short would don his famous getup for the character of Jiminy Glick and would interview an audience member, usually a visiting celebrity, in Glick's hilarious and abrasive manner.
Oh my God, it's you! I'm just blanking on the name. That's because I'm with CBS.
Oh, you're with CBS. I knew there was a reason.
Dave Price.
Dave Price, of course. If Lincoln were alive today, would he be pleased with his tunnel?
The final countdown for $1,000 in the Happy New Year category gives us the clue. In the plot to Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Phantom of the Opera, this song is performed to celebrate New Year's Eve. What is Masquerade? Act 2 opens with the song celebrating the Masquerade Ball, which is thrown to celebrate the new year. The celebration is interrupted, of course, by the Phantom dressed as the Red Death. And the curtain call clue in the musical sequels category for $1,000 is the acclaimed Gershwin musical of The I Sing, the first musical to win the Pulitzer, has a sequel titled this. What is Let 'Em Eat Cake is the answer. Opening in 1933, just a year after the original of The I Sing, Let 'Em Eat Cake followed now former President John P. Wintergreen and his VP Alexander Throttlebottom as they run unsuccessfully for re-election. They then try to have the Supreme Court overturn the decision, and when that fails, they then try to stage a coup and overthrow the government. Isn't fiction crazy? Of the I Sing was satirical but pleasant. The sequel's darker tones didn't fly with audiences, and the show closed after only 89 performances. We've reached the final Jeopardy round, my friends. Time to tally up those scores and decide how much you want to wager in the category Winter Wonderland, looking at some shows set in the cold winter months. All right, has everyone made their wagers? Aaron? Sarah? Cinco? Okay, here is your final clue. Little Edie Beale dreads another winter in a summer town in this 2006 musical. What is Grey Gardens is the answer. Another Winter in a Summer Town is the melancholy closing to the musical based on the classic documentary of the same name. Christine Ebersol in the Act 2 role of Little Edie gave a career-defining performance, which not only perfectly captured the look, sound, and characteristics of its real-life subject, but she also brilliantly put across the pathos and tragedy and resilience of the human spirit.
The beach is empty. They cover the pools. The patio umbrellas come down. Oh God, my God, another winter in a summer town.
And that's this week's game, the first game of 2025 in the books. How did you all make out this week? Be sure to let me know your scores in the comments. I love hearing from you guys and seeing how you did. If you enjoyed this week's game, please share this video on social media. I'm setting a goal for the channel and I'd love to hit 15,000 subscribers by the end of this new year, and I could really use all your help. So share these videos and make sure you're subscribed. A special massive thank you to all my incredible patrons over on Patreon. I literally could not keep making these videos if it wasn't for you guys. And because it's a holiday and I'm feeling like it, I'm gonna throw up all the names of all my patrons at every level, because I love you guys. If you want to check out the Patreon, there is a link in the video description. I will be back next week with episode 31, but until then, I'm Broadway Daddy. I'm Mark Bonanni. This is Broadway by Ghostlight. Thanks for playing.